in what way do you think that it's important to have a positive mindset for creativity?
Oh my goodness, mindset is everything, really. I mean, mindset is important for everything. I don't know whether you know what we psychologists mean by mindset, but it's basically all the unconscious beliefs that drive absolutely everything in our lives. It drives the way we think, the way we feel, the way we behave. We don't use our conscious mind anything like as much as people believe. The unconscious is whirring away, driving everything. And so clearly, you know, for creativity, it's the essence of creativity. So if somebody's artistically creative or scientifically creative or creative in other ways, then that's all coming out of their unconscious mindset. And so building mindset is at the core of changing the way we think, changing the way we behave. It defines who we are, it defines our personality and character, it defines absolutely everything.
And a lot of people underestimate the importance of the unconscious. So it's interesting that you bring that up, that from a psychological point of view, you know, a lot of what we do is driven by unconscious drivers.
That's right.
In your work as a psychologist, how do you encourage people to adopt a more positive mindset so that they're harnessing the power of their unconscious mind?
Well, funny enough, most people have no idea what creates mindset, and most people think it's all about upbringing and you know, early life experiences and education and maybe experiences we've had in our life up till now. But actually, all of those things I've just mentioned only account for, I don't know, maybe 30% of our mindset. Almost the main thing that determines mindset is behavior. In other words, every time we do something, we're either reinforcing existing mindset or we're changing existing mindset. And most people go through life simply doing what their current mindset is telling them to do, and therefore constantly reinforcing it. But if you want to develop mindset in a way that's not already, you know, written and there, then the main way of doing that is to change behavior. So we could enhance creativity simply by choosing to behave in creative ways. And each time we do that, we're gradually whittling away at our current mindset and creating a different mindset. And very few people understand that outside the world of psychology. And very few people understand how they can create a different mindset. Thoughts can drive behavior, and in that sense, since it's behavior that primarily changes mindset, then clearly, if we think in a way that says, "Oh, I'm going to get up this morning and I'm going to do something creative," then that would be a conscious thought that would drive a new behavior, and that new behavior would change mindset. So, in one sense, yes, a behavior is driven by thoughts, but primarily, first of all, we don't change mindset directly by thinking. It has to lead to a behavior in order to change mindset, and so you could read a great book, or you could think about it, and while that'll have some influence, unless it's linked to behavior, it won't have very much influence. And so you're right. What you said, it's not thinking that drives mindset; it's behavior that drives mindset primarily. I'm sure whoever said that eating affects the way we think, I'm sure that's true. So many things are true, but my guess is the impact is very small compared with other things. We know that behavior is the main driver. And yes, you could come up with 100 other things, of which eating might be one, or what you eat might be one, but I can assure you that the impact of that would be minute. And I would say that, yes, yoga is interesting. I mean, it's not just about exercise, is it? There's a sort of a spiritual aspect to it as well, and a kind of a mindset aspect to it. And so I think behaviors like yoga would certainly have a bigger impact than what you eat. I don't personally use yoga in my life, although I use Pilates quite a lot, and they're quite similar. Yeah, I would say that the spiritual kind of or mind-based aspect of yoga would have an impact. I use behavioral change to do a number of things. One, to unwind negative mindsets that create, well-known psychological problems. You mentioned somebody being depressed, somebody might be anxious, somebody might be, have mind-based issues like OCD or eating disorders or all those sort of things. And in order to change those mindsets, yes, the primary drive would be behavior to change those negative mindsets. Equally, if people don't have mind-based limitations of the type that I've just described, and they want to create a more powerful mindset, become more confident, for instance, or more achieving, or more creative, as you've given that example, what we would be doing is we'd be getting them to behave in ways that reflect what they want their mindset to become, and that would have an impact on their mindset. Whether they want to be more confident or more achieving or more creative, then they would have to behave in those ways. Now, the thing about all of this, the getting rid of unwinding limitations or creating more positive or more powerful mindsets, is that doing that isn't necessarily easy if it creates negative feelings. So, for instance, if somebody comes to me and says they're not very confident and they want to become more confident, I'd say, well, go out and do confident things. But that's all very well, because as soon as they try and do that, they're going to get nervous and reticent and fearful and all those kind of things if I'm telling them to step outside their comfort zone. And so we need to tell them how to deal with those feelings. So there's a kind of a combination of behavior and knowing how to deal with uncomfortable feelings that might arise as a result. And they need to know both those things. But potentially, everyone's potentially creative. I absolutely would buy into that. The potential for creativity is there in the human mind. Some of this is genetic, by the way. I mean, some mindset is genetic, and we acquire it when we're born. And I would say some people are probably born with a more, genetically acquired tendency towards creativity and other things. Some people are, I don't know, genetically more athletic or more sporting or all sorts of things. And so that would be a part of it. So I'm not saying that everyone's born with equal potential for creativity, but I would say everyone's born with a significant potential for creativity. And in order to bring that out, yes, they would need to do what I've been talking about. What is their particular natural talent? Yes, I mean, I think that's a good question. I mean, sure, lots of people could go to an art class or a painting class, and some people will take to it very quickly and become great artists, and other people will struggle. And that would be a mixture of creative talent that's been developed early in life. Maybe some of it might be genetic. Some people genetically would not have a natural way to aspire to being artistically creative, for example. But nevertheless, everyone can develop it. So your question is, well, how do we find out what our particular talent is, particular genetic tendencies are? I guess we can only do that through experimentation. Yes, what Mozart did was quite, astounds everyone in terms of writing symphonies at the age of 12. Yes, he was clearly, I would say, some of that came from his parenting, but I would say he had a genetic tendency towards that extraordinary talent that he displayed. And But how do you, it's a good question you're asking, how do you find out whether you just have a talent for music or whether you have a creativity for music? And again, experimentation would tell you, would give you the answer, presumably, to that. So I wonder why people would want to experiment in that regard. I mean, wouldn't most people already have an awareness of their natural creative talents? Wouldn't most people have already discovered that and therefore be tending into using those creative talents? I'm not sure how many people would get up one morning and say, oh, I want to find out if I've got any creative talents that I don't know about, and so I'm going to experiment. I'm not sure what the motivation would be to do that, to be honest. Public speaking, interestingly, is a talent that's worth developing for most people. I mean, because there's, you know, most people would have times in their lives, even if it's only the one time their daughter's getting married, that they would have some use for developing that talent, more so than, say, wanting to become an artist or something like that, which they may not be motivated to do. But certainly in a work environment, most people, it's worth developing public speaking. I encourage most of my clients who want to gain in confidence or gain in you know, achievement or whatever, to develop their public speaking abilities. And I send most of my clients to Toastmasters at some point to develop or to discover whether they have that talent and then to develop it. I think everyone would benefit from developing a public speaking talent. Now, you mentioned public speaking creativity. That's interesting. Some people might have a talent but not be very creative. I don't know, actually. For most people, surely all they really need to develop is a talent for it. They wouldn't, most people wouldn't need to become a creative public speaker. I think if you're in Parliament or you're in you know, some field at which being a creative public speaker would be a benefit, then sure, it'd be worth developing that. But for most people, I don't think they would bother. I mean, I can think of some people, I don't know, Martin Luther King, my goodness, what an amazing public speaker he was, or Nelson Mandela, or other great public speakers that we're all aware of, Obama. If they want to become more creative, then it would come back to what I said right at the beginning. They need to experiment, practice, behave in ways that are going to develop their creativity. We use the expressions act as if they're already creative. Another expression that people are familiar with is fake it till you make it. Those are, if they're motivated to develop creativity, then I've already said how they should do that. They should experiment, behave, act as if, fake it till you make it, do things to become more creative. If they're not motivated to do that, then they won't do that. So it depends on their motivations, I would say. And but you gave a good example of something that everyone would benefit from, which would be developing public speaking. I don't think there are that many other things in life which I would generalize in that way and say, yeah, everyone should experiment with becoming an artist or a musician or anything else. I would say if they're motivated to, then do it.